everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk. My name is John, and today here on the channel, we are going to be talking about 2007's The Mist, and its brand new 4K Blu-ray that just came out from Lionsgate. So The Mist was originally released back in 2007, is written and directed by Frank Darabont, who also wrote and directed two other Stephen King stories. Both of them are probably more famous than this movie: The Shawshank Redemption from 1994.
Shawshank Redemption.
And The Green Mile from 1999. Both of those are great pictures. The Shawshank Redemption is considered one of the greatest films ever made, and The Mist actually has a pretty big following as well. It was pretty successful at the box office, made on a budget of about $12.2 million, ended up making over $54 million, and most people probably remember this film for its crazy, ambitious, and just going for it ending. The ending is what the lasting impact of this film has been, but the rest of the movie is pretty damn good itself. The film stars Thomas Jane in the lead role around the time when we were trying to make him a leading man, a big-time actor. It's only 3 years after The Punisher, and it really raises the question, whose life is worse? The Punisher from 2004 or Thomas Jane's character of David in The Mist from 2007? I don't know. Both guys really got dealt just an awful hand, and Thomas Jane does a good enough job acting in this film. I don't think he's the greatest lead actor. I think you could have cast somebody a little bit better. Me personally, thinking back to 2007, I think Hugh Jackman would have fit perfectly in the lead role. He knows how to really bring the emotional impact that this role would have needed while still being strong and tough, and that's what they were going for with Thomas Jane's character, because as the movie starts, you know, it's a thunderstorm at night, knocks out the power, ruins his painting, because that's what he is, he's an artist, and the next morning, him and his son, and Andre Braugher's character, Andre Braugher, who many of you guys might know from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and maybe Frequency if you're a fan of that film. Always a great character actor, knows what to bring to the role, and he does a fantastic job in this movie as well. Three of them head off to the supermarket, and when they get there, everyone is just going crazy. Police cars are flying by, the power's out, and we really get to know these people. They all seem like good, genuine people, but unfortunately, a couple people come flying in. The mist starts to roll, and he's like, there's something in the mist. Do not go outside or you will be killed. Now, of course, rational human beings, I would be one of these people like, what are you talking about? I'm not buying that there's something out there in the mist. You can't, it's fucking fog. I'm going outside. And of course, many people, like me, they go outside, and what happens? They start to get eaten by some Lovecraftian CGI monsters. We don't know what these are. They have tentacles. Eventually, some of them end up looking like bugs. We have still, by the end of this movie, we have no idea exactly what they are. Now, the CGI, it's from 2007. It's been 15 years. It was good at the time, but it doesn't look too great now. That's one of the flaws of this film, but that's not really the point of this movie, are the monsters. The point of this movie is the human reaction to what's going on. It's like a sped up version of the world ending. You know, we don't really know what's going on outside. None of the people inside have any idea what's happening. Is it a natural disaster? Are aliens taking over the world? And of course, everyone being humans, everyone has a different belief about what's going on. Is it religious related? And of course, we have Marcia Gay Harden inside, Academy Award winner Marcia Gay Harden, who's a religious fanatic.
Time to take sides. Read the good book. It calls for blood.
It's based on a Stephen King novella, so of course we have a religious fanatic. It takes place in Maine, and you're going to have references to Castle Rock. It's all in here. Every film based on a Stephen King novel or novella has those elements in there. You know the Stephen King tropes. So she's just going crazy saying it's the end. They talked about this in the Bible. So she's getting all those people riled up. You know, some people, rational thinking people, logical thinking people are like, no, let's take this step by step. Of course, they have to be proven that these are real monsters. So the real human element of this film is really what drives it going forward. You really want to see regular people and how they deal with something catastrophic like this. And I really think they nailed that. That's what Frank Darabont brings to this film, is the human element of it. We get Toby Jones in this movie just doing a great job. For me, he is the best actor in this film. Another very underappreciated character actor. But what he brings to this movie is that heart, you know, somebody who's trying to think rationally but understands how people are, and he's really pointed out, like, you know, these people are panicking, they're scared, and when you get panicky and scared, what do humans do? They just turn to the first person who looks like they can lead them, who looks like they can guide them in the right direction, whether they be wrong or right, but if there's enough proof there, that's it, they're gonna cling on to them. I mean, we see this nowadays, like, people really glop on to one person who just feeds them what they want to hear and is going to tell them that it's gonna be all right. And And that's what this movie is trying to show you, while a few other people aren't getting locked into the religious beliefs of this. They just want to get out of there. They can't do this anymore. They know that time is running out, even though they still have no idea what is going on outside. And that's another thing. They're cut off from the world. Like, this could be just going on outside where they are, so they have to risk it all. And this is going to be a spoiler alert about the ending, because I have to talk about the ending to this movie. So if you don't want to know about that, click over to the 4K Blu-ray review, which is a little bit later in this video, so you can just check out how that turned out. But I do want to talk about the ending just a little bit. So the very end of this movie, Thomas Jane, his son, a few other people, a few other survivors who finally make it to the car, they start heading away from the town, but the mist isn't clearing up. They have a gun on them with a few bullets in there. I believe only 4 bullets, and there's 5 of them. And you know what? They ran out of gas. The monsters are on their tail. They don't know what to do, and they all agree, you know what? That's it. A few other people had already done this earlier in the movie, where they've either hung themselves, overdosed on pills, just not willing to get eaten by the monsters, and I don't blame them. So Thomas James David says, all right, I'll shoot all of you, and then I'll get out there and I'll figure something out. And he does. He shoots them all, including his son. The most horrible thing you could ever do in this world, but he believes that's the best thing for him, rather than see these creatures. But then, of course, you know, he's freaking out, and this is where Thomas Jane does his best acting, where he's screaming. He can't even wrap his head around what he just did to his own son and to other innocent people. So he gets out of the car, and you know, we think the monster's gonna take him, and of course, what comes rolling in but a tank and the military. If he would have just waited like 3 more minutes, they all would have been all right, or as so far as we think. We don't know exactly still as the movie ends, but we think that everything would have turned out okay, at least for these people. Many people died along the way, and I'm sure many people died at other locations also, but still, can you imagine how he feels? I would have just threw myself at one of those guys with the guns and just tried to fight him to the point where he shot me, because I don't want to live anymore. Why would you want to live? This guy has to be on permanent suicide watch because he's going to try and kill himself, and you don't blame him for that at all. I wouldn't want to go on after something like this. And that ending, man, just going for it. It is brutal, and it's downright mean. You're not leaving that theater with a happy ending at all, but you were leaving the theater with the most realistic approach to this that they possibly could have captured on film. This movie does have its cinematic moments, but I really think the realistic approach to it really is what makes this movie stand out, and really just turn the camera back on ourselves as human beings and how we would react in a situation like this. You know, like I said, I feel like it's a sped up version of what would happen in real life in situations similar to this. Like if we weren't attacked by monsters, but if like the apocalypse was coming, or there was a real bad natural disaster, of course we're all going to start turning on each other. And I think this movie just shows that over the course of a couple days with a very realistic ending, and it's just a fantastic film. Is it flawless? No. Like I said, Thomas Jane is not the greatest actor in the world. I would have preferred somebody else in that role, but all the supporting actors are really good. The CGI isn't the greatest as well. You know, obviously in 2007 that stuff all looked pretty good, but now in 2023 it's not the greatest, but I still really enjoyed the screenplay for this movie. I really enjoyed the one location that they hang out in for the whole film. I really think that works very well. And everyone is just doing the best job that they possibly could. And Frank Darabont's direction really holds up so well to this very day. So if you haven't seen The Mist, I could definitely recommend it from a film standpoint. And maybe you want to check it out on this brand new 4K Blu-ray that we're going to talk about right now. But before we dive into that, if you are a fan of 4K Blu-ray reviews, movie reviews, lists, and podcasts, we try to do the ball here on the channel, and nothing would help this channel out more than by just simply liking this video and subscribing to the channel. So here's The Mist on 4K Blu-ray. I got the Best Buy exclusive steelbook, but it also came out in a regular slipcover version that I didn't grab myself. But I decided to get this Lionsgate 4K steelbook mainly because Lionsgate does just great jobs with these 4K steelbooks lately, and this is one of their special ones. You know, the ones that have the really nice slipcover on the outside that really blends into the artwork, which if you look right here, you know, you get the people underneath and their faces and everything is in the clear see-through option of The Mist. So when you pull it off, you get a really nice steelbook underneath, and I mean it's like a matte, slightly glossy, semi-glossy finish. Just great stuff here. Really nice steelbook as always from Lionsgate. You come inside. This is a 4-disc set, and because they're in a supermarket, you see the individual disc design there to make it look like meats. You know, you get the color version in 4K as well as the black and white version. Same thing with the Blu-ray. You get that in black and white and color. So all that stuff is just so awesome. To get 4 discs and get the Blu-ray and the 4K version, and not just black and white but in color as well, is fantastic. And Frank Darabont originally wanted to shoot the film in black and white, but unfortunately the studio wanted to release it in color, so that's how they ended up shooting it. And they actually wanted to shoot it on digital, but Frank Darabont thought that looked too beautiful. He didn't like how it looked. He wanted to shoot this more documentary style, so they ended up switching to different cameras that actually created this film grain that they wanted to go for, a certain look that they wanted to make these movies look like, make it look like a real, almost documentary looking film. He said he took inspiration from the show The Shield. He actually asked them if he can use the way they shot that in his film. So you get the camera moving around a lot of close-ups, but like it's kind of like zooming in quick and then it kind of just steadies out a little bit. So the way they shot this is awesome. I really do absolutely love that. But if you were going to ask me which version you should watch that in, well, let's dive into that right now. So the colored version and the black and white version have HDR10 and Dolby Vision on them. The Blu-rays aren't the same scan from what I'm able to tell. I think they're the previous released versions of the Blu-ray, just based on the fact that in the menus of that it says Dimension Films, while the new 4Ks say Lionsgate Films in there. Originally Dimension did distribute these films, but the 4Ks were released by Lionsgate. So Lionsgate, I believe, did the transfers on this, but I'm not 100% sure who actually did the transfers on the disc, but they did a phenomenal job. Both the black and white version and the colored versions of the 4Ks are big jumps from these Blu-rays, and the black and white version is absolutely the way to go. So I watched the film last night. I watched the first hour and 3 minutes on color, and then I watched the second hour and 3 minutes in black and white, and it is just so much better in black and white. That is the definitive way to watch this film, and because it's on 4K now, and it's turning up a lot of different options from the previous Blu-ray, yes, the colored version, the skin in general, looks a lot better now. It looks more natural, whereas on the previous Blu-ray that stuff looks like it's, hey, let's turn up the saturation a little bit, but it's starting to make the skin look just very flat and waxy. And of course, like I said, they tried to make these movies look a certain way. So the 4K isn't going to fix those things. They were going for that intentionally. That's a source material thing. So you might see some deep black scenes that have a lot of grain on it. And that's what they were going for. But that stuff actually, surprisingly, on other scenes doesn't show up. So they did still shoot this movie very well, but you didn't want them to clean it up to, you know, a mind-blowing extent. But the 4K of the black and white looks just absolutely fantastic. That one scene when everyone's got the candles out and their lights are shining at the window, in color that looks really good, but in black and white it takes it to the next level, especially the scene when they have the fire going around the supermarket. It looks like Frankenstein, and it looks just like the Frankenstein 4K as well, where the brightness of that fire just stands out. It catches your eye. It just looks incredible. I mean, the black and white 4K is absolutely the way to go. I know not everybody is a fan of black and white, but you were doing yourself a disservice by not watching the black and white version, because again, that's also going to cover up the CGI issues. You're not going to notice bad CGI, a little bit, I'm not going to lie. There are certain moments where the CGI is still a little bit negative, but not as bad as it is on the color version of the 4K. So the CGI gets covered up as well in the black and white version, and since that's the way Frank Darabont wanted you to see this movie, that's the version that I can recommend personally. But either way, which way you go, the visuals on these 4Ks are great. It is a jump from the previous Blu-rays. You're gonna notice it. It does look like a modern 2023 4K, but some of the flaws are related to the source material, and that stuff was intentional. So if you do notice those issues, they were intending for you to see those issues. I think everything else that they did to clean this up looks amazing. And you also got a brand new Dolby Atmos track, and it is a damn good Dolby Atmos track at that. Not the best Dolby Atmos track I've ever heard, but they're showing it off right at the beginning with the thunderstorm outside, and at the very end of the movie with the helicopter blades flying around. It sounds like that stuff is just right next to you. They did a great job mixing it. The dialogue is crisp and clear. You never have to worry about that. This movie intentionally didn't have much score in it. They wanted you to really just dive into how these people were thinking. They wanted it to feel as realistic as possible, so not much score going on, but the moments that they do use the score, it does feel heavy. It feels like it's mixed in the right way. You know, you don't have to worry about it being overbearing like they intended it for not to be, so you don't have to worry about that. But when it is used, it's mixed very, very well. So this is a really solid Dolby Atmos track. Now you get no new extras here, and all of your extras are going to be on that third disc colored Blu-ray. No extras on the black and white Blu-ray. So all your extras are going to be on that disc, except for an audio commentary track with Frank Darabont and a producer. You can watch that on the 4K as well, and on the Blu-ray, and pretty much on every version. The black and white version actually has an introduction from Frank Darabont, but only on the Blu-ray, not on the 4K. But I recommend checking that out. Get his thoughts on the black and white version and why he originally intended it to look like that. And the extras are fantastic. Even if they're not new, you get a really nice 37-minute making of documentary, a couple of feature effects, diving into the special effects, whether it be the practical or the CGI effects, which always makes me feel bad about knocking the bad CGI because you see how much effort went into making these CGI effects. And you gotta understand it's 15 years ago, but that's why I support practical effects a little bit more than CGI effects, because at least practical effects, it was there, it was real, they were really working with something, whereas CGI, anything to do with technology is just not gonna age gracefully, and that works the same way for this film. But I really did appreciate us getting that little featurette. You get some interviews, trailers, TV spots, so it's pretty much loaded with extras. Not the most extras you've ever seen, but again, a pretty damn good amount. And to get a big visual upgrade with this, to get a big audio upgrade, to get the previously released extras, to get 4 discs, whether you get the slipcover version, which is $22.99, or the steelbook version, which is $26.99 at Best Buy, that is an absolute steal at that price. Just to give you a comparison, if Warner Brothers is releasing a catalog title on 4K, whether it be Vacation or Enter the Dragon, they usually charge you for the slipcover version about $27, which is exactly what Lionsgate is charging you for the steelbook version with 4 discs and a nice slipcover over the steelbook. So it's insane. All you get from Warner Brothers usually is a slipcover, a digital code, and a 1 4K disc with no extras. So Lionsgate continues to knock it out of the park with their catalog 4K releases, and this is no different. This is absolutely one of the best releases of the year, especially for the collector out there. I can't give it a perfect 10 because it's not a perfect 10. It's hitting on all strides, but you know, everything can't be perfect, but this one is as close to perfect as we can possibly hope for. And honestly, I didn't expect this to come to 4K this year, and the fact we have it on 4K and it is a film that I recommend you guys seeing, I'll give this one a score of 9.5 out of 10. I could definitely recommend it. But if you don't got the money to watch it on 4K, I could just recommend the film, whether you stream it, watch it on DVD, any which way. I do think you guys should see this film. And if you want to grab it through Amazon, through my Amazon affiliate link, it does help support the channel. But if you really want to continue to support the channel, all you have to do is just simply hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, get out in those streets, and tell your friends about us. And we'll be seeing you around.